All right. Welcome everybody. You are entering the virtual Zoom session for planning for the health professions. And as a member of the Honors College and a new incoming freshman, maybe you're a transfer student, but at the University of Arkansas, my name is Monica Moore. And I have the privilege of welcoming you all this evening. I am joined by two colleagues of mine in the Fulbright College of Arts and Sciences this evening. And we also have several folks joining us who are part of our pre-nursing program who will be presenting as part of the College of Education and Health Professions. And we also have Matthew Fay with us this evening. He's not presenting, but if there are any questions that come up later after the presenters are finished, he might be able to, he's here in case any questions come up, but Matthew Fay is the Associate Director of the Honors Program in the College of Education and Health Professions, and he advises all honors students in their freshman year. So we're lucky that he was able to join us this evening. So I just gave a real general overview. These are your hosts this evening for this program. And so just to give you even more details, we've got Dr. Mack Ivey, who is the chair of the Liebolot Premedical program. He's a professor and research scientist in the Department of Biological Sciences. And his charge is to lead all the pre-med students on our campus, navigating all that is required to prepare to be an applicant and apply for med school. We have Dr. Kathleen with us. She is the director of Predental studies on our campus. She's a professor and research scientist in the Department of Anthropology in Fulbright College. And we have a special guest who is a student who just graduated from Fulbright College, who will be sharing some experience with you later this evening, Savannah Supal, and I'll make a grand introduction of Savannah when her part comes along. And then we have three folks here to speak to any pre-nursing honor students in the crowd. You know, health professions are really popular, and we are choosing to highlight in this session three of the most popular. So we've got pre-med in first place, we've got pre-nursing in second place, followed by predental studies, at least as far as everyone knows at this stage in their undergraduate studies. And so this is just a sampling of what is possible along pre-health tracks. And that's what I'm going to really start off with, just thinking about planning for these things. So I want to, first of all, introduce who I am in relation to the Honors College. I am one of the 4 team members in the Honors Futures Hub. And so the first part of my presentation will offer up some details about what I do as a member of the Futures Hub and how the services that I provide are designed to help you all. It says I'm an academic planning specialist. My job is, it's recently changed a bit, gotten a little bit more focused. And so really my charge now is Director of Pre-Med and Healthcare Planning Services. You can, when you think about the Futures Hub, and if that happens to be your identity, then I'm someone who can help and provide some overarching broad services that are useful for you as you think about, developing what we call your story along a great framework. So global experiences, research, engagement, academics, and how does all of that lead to this story that you'll end up telling about yourself when you write your applications for medical school. And so, broadly speaking, one charge of mine is to develop some web content on that student hub. You can see the web link there to, right now, it's basically for pre-med planning. And the content there will help you along all stages of the great framework that the Futures Hub represents and how we help you. Health professions planning will be coming soon. And then I also create some content for a weekly email that I hope you all will keep your eye on. Each week, once the semester begins and throughout the academic year through the end of spring, most weeks you'll find a section in This Week in Honors that pertains to anyone who's interested in healthcare professions. Sometimes broadly speaking, sometimes very narrow in focus. And I'm going to show you an example of what that content can look like from week to week. When I'm able, as I'm meeting students, as I'm working with them individually over the years, I do try to facilitate some peer and professional mentoring connections. So if I happen to know a student who's doing something similar to what you have shared right now, kind of informally, but hopefully more formally as we go along, I will help make those connections, do what I can so that you can find someone who's a little bit further along, who can give you some advice and guidance and answer some questions that you may have. And I also, I do campus referrals. So I work with a lot of individuals. Some of the folks who are with us tonight would be an example. So I'll refer students when there is a need to see a pre-professional staff or faculty advisor. Our Futures Hub directors, they all have different charges, and it may be that as you're planning sort of for big picture things on your way to a professional healthcare career, you may have a need, probably will have a need to see one of the Futures Hub directors. I refer students to the Office of Nationally Competitive Awards, recommend registered student organizations, and even help you think through how to find nonprofits that, different things you can do out in the community. And the web resources definitely address some of those broad things for a large audience, those of you and all the other pre-med and pre-health students who are part of our community. And so I just wanted to give you an example of just a few things that you might see come your way if you're really checking that weekly email. One week we had a student who is forming a new chapter for the American Heart Association, and he was looking to recruit new members. And so he asked me if I'd be willing to promote that. And so, and you'll get this kind of information a lot of different ways. But this is one example of how I try to keep you all in the loop and aware of things that you can do that are related to the professional career path that you're pursuing. You might see that there's some news that I've pulled in about, for instance, that picture of the two young women in the left-hand bottom corner. This is a news story featured in the University of Arkansas web news, and it's featuring their research. So, and then another piece might be a recent interview that Dr. Casey Kaiser, who teaches some medical humanities courses on our campus, an interview that she was having with a local radio station about a class that she's helping our Dean Linda Kuhn coordinate for the May intercession. And so that's kind of an overview of how I work together with the members of the Futures Hub. But I also want to let you know and make clear how part of my job is to support the work of academic and professional advisors in your college honors program. And I really, this is kind of the cornerstone of my work. It's what I've been doing since I joined the Honors College in August of 2017. And it has a lot to do with planning, these planning services. I offer workshops that help you do some academic planning, what we call mapping. Eventually, we'll have information sessions that help you learn about different health professions as part of those planning, broadening sort of the way in which you think about planning. So look for those details about those sessions when and where this fall. So I'd like to talk to you about just real quickly the planning for coursework that I was just referencing. So, you know, what I learned pretty early on when I joined the Honors College is that there are a lot of moving parts to what honors students want to do and can do. And there are times when it helps to take a step back and look at the big picture. And it really started with academic planning for me, big picture academic planning. And that service I provide helps students learn how to map out coursework from entry to graduation. We're not going to ask you to do that tonight or really anytime super soon, okay? But that is what you would encounter in a workshop that I provide. In those workshops, you'll learn how to explore meaningful coursework and complete that coursework in a timely manner, and how to recognize overlap between multiple academic plans. So if you're pre-health, you already have more than one thing going on, at least more than one thing. And so those, you know, juggling that can be tricky. You have to keep your eye on what major you've declared, what are those requirements, and what do you need to do for pre-med and or, you know, pre-nursing. We have a great team of folks who help with that. But I help you recognize where that overlap is, and that's part of completing in a timely manner, figuring out how parts of everything fit together to make that big picture. So I want to give you a few examples. This is a teaser about what you would find in a workshop that I give. So for instance, for a student who was on a Bachelor of Arts degree majoring in psychology and they have a pre-med track, one of the things that we would try to identify is what kind of coursework can you take that will satisfy. Can you take coursework that can satisfy more than one thing? And so in this instance, general psychology works as a core, a state minimum, or what we call university core requirement. Everybody has to take some of those. It's a social science. If you happen to be a psychology major or minor, it's a required class, and it's also a pre-med recommended course. So some of the planning service that I provide helps you all identify that, exploit it so that you can really complete all of the different goals that you have in mind here at the U of A. Here's another example. If you were a Bachelor of Science degree seeking student majoring in chemistry plus pre-med, and you had a minor in medical humanities, I'm giving you an example of a course that could, so it's called Intro to Literature. It's new for the very first time this fall. The theme for this class is literature and medicine. And so it can be a core requirement, satisfying humanities. It could be a pre-med recommended course, or it doesn't have, I mean, it might be pre-nursing. It could be other health professions that would really, you know, anyone who's on a health professions track might be good or would benefit from taking a class like this. It's also a course option on the medical humanities minor. And so that's one example of sort of planning, course planning, but ever more my job is starting to evolve into how do I help students plan for the profession that they're aiming toward, for sure, but also consider different things that are related. Explore, different health professions. As part of confirming that you're heading on the right track, as part of just making sure that if for some reason you had to pivot, one of the big words our chancellor is using right now, if for some reason you have to make a change or a change becomes something that you welcome, you plan for something in addition to what you had in mind in the very beginning. We're here to help make sure you're meeting your goals, but we want to also help you explore here at the university. And as a health profession student, exploring means thinking about what else could I do in healthcare that's sort of related, that could be related to what I imagine if I were to become a doctor or a nurse. And I'm giving you a few examples. There's a lot of overlap in terms of course requirements for different health professions. And I'm giving you a couple of examples. I'm going to get more concrete. We've got dentistry and pre-med represented here today, but I just wanted to show you, I'm highlighting in yellow course requirements. So this is dental school course requirements, and it comes from Dr. Paul's website for Predental studies. And then when you look at pre-med, there's so very much that these two professional program, prep coursework lists have in common. And so you can see that if you become familiar with what these course requirements are for different healthcare fields, you can keep your options open. You can't do it forever and still graduate in 4 years. You have to think strategic. You have to look ahead. And so I'm just trying to demonstrate where the overlap is, to be aware of it, and that there are resources that help you discover that. And so there is some career development that is required for any healthcare profession. And we have services on our campus that help you do some exploring, some self-discovery to see if, in addition to pre-med, you might want to add a minor in medical humanities, or if you also would like to explore a different major that is very much related to what a doctor, that can get you to what a doctor might do, something closely related. There are assessments that help you discover academic majors, good minors, fitting careers. It's a process of discovery. There's an occupational outlook guides resource that helps you learn even more. All of this as part of parallel planning. And, you don't just take these classes, right? You're looking at what the profession is like. You're looking at what you must do to enter it as a competitive applicant and eventual professional. So you must engage as a student, perhaps do summer research and internships, work, and even more. And so, please, we encourage you to utilize our Career Development Center. They offer resources that help you discover common threads among these health professions, find a fitting academic plan, which includes majors, double majors, minors, pre-professional programs, and to learn about meaningful ways, relevant ways, and to find those ways to engage out in the community. And so those are a couple of different ways that I am thinking about planning and parallel planning. Some of it has to do with academics, some of it has to do with professional development and preparation. And I want to, so it's about time for me to hand the stage over to a student who is going to tell you a little bit more. We have some unique experiences on our campus that allow you to take coursework to explore your field of study academically, but also maybe with an eye toward a profession that you're heading in the classroom setting, and also gain some experience out in the community through that same very class. And these are classes that are considered service learning courses. And one example that we're featuring tonight is called our Medical Humanities Colloquium, taught by Dr. Casey Kaiser. So Savannah C. Paul is with us this evening. She is a recent graduate, distinguished honors college alumna, and she is a Fulbright College scholar who graduated summa cum laude. She earned her Bachelor of Science degree in biology, minored in psychology, philosophy, and medical humanities. And she will be attending the University of Washington University School of Medicine this coming fall. And she's a great example of someone who's been able to plan doing multiple things. So the class she's going to tell us about, she took this class and I think it was one of maybe her very favorite classes. But Savannah, if you would tell us a little bit about that class before we move on.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Hi, everyone. I am Savannah, as mentioned. Just for incoming freshmen, I went to Little Rock Central High School. For any Tigers out there in the audience. So I absolutely loved the Medical Humanities Colloquium. We were able to explore healthcare through a wide variety of literature and gain perspective from diverse backgrounds and cultures. So I was able to bring my own cultural experiences into group discussions and able to learn from my peers, all from different angles while adding in the literature. So you have that personal connection, as well as hearing from people you've never met from their stories and experiences. The format of the course facilitated very interesting connections between the classroom and our experiential learning. So what we were doing in the community, the job shadowing opportunities. For example, we read a short story titled Doctor Talk to Me, where the narrator is desperate for a connection with his physician beyond the dry explanations of diagnosis and treatment. He understands that the doctor-patient relationship needs to be professional, but he still wants to feel more involvement from his physician, feel like he's being treated as a person. So through the course, I had the opportunity to shadow a pediatrician, and I was amazed by her warmth and attentiveness to the kids and parents that came through her office. Many of these relationships she's built over years of care, and she was most definitely a very involved physician. Now, you kind of have the question of how can we improve the doctor-patient relationship across all sorts of care, maybe short-term care situations like emergency medicine? How can we navigate the balance between communication and efficiency? Do we have time to talk to patients? I find questions like these to be very intriguing, and I was not disappointed by other courses included in the medical humanities minor as well. So ethical questions about healthcare delivery were revisited in other classes I took, such as philosophy of race and gender, abnormal psychology, and medical anthropology. And I also saw themes in these courses that came up in the Medical Humanities Colloquium course. I also had the pleasure of engaging in conversations about my thoughts on medical humanities in every medical school interview that I participated in. Specifically, I received many questions about addressing the social and economic determinants of health, so the elements of life that aren't readily apparent in a physical exam. One of the many considerations here is the conversation that a physician has with their patient. The ability to listen carefully and engage with patients is essential. I could talk about balancing physician involvement with professionalism in order to provide the highest possible level of care. This takeaway, as well as knowledge on a multitude of other topics that we reflected on in the course, I am excited to carry with me as a future physician, and I look forward to learning more about medical humanities through medical school and through journals that are out there on this very topic. So that is my little spiel on the course. It is fantastic.
Okay, thank you very much, Savannah. So to conclude my part, we're talking about exploring, we're talking about planning, just coming into the University of Arkansas with the mindset of exploring, I think we all agree is really a great way to be. We're talking about your big picture, but the big picture at the U of A is that we have so much to offer you all that just exceeds what you did in high school, where you attended. And so we feel like the exploration process, stay on your path, but do some exploring. It ensures that it's the right fit for you. It teaches you all aspects of teamwork within health professions to start learning about folks who you'll be working alongside with. It opens the door of your mind to reveal the many facets of healthcare. And convinces committees, admissions committees, that you know what you're getting into, which I think is what Savannah was able to do as she spoke about her experience in the class. So now I'm going to hand it over to our series of faculty and advisor. So Mack, Ivey is up, and they are going to talk about the important coursework to be thinking about as you prepare for orientation, and maybe 1 or 2 semesters ahead of that. Vital experiences you need to prepare for the field, and joining health teams. So I'll stop sharing my screen, and Mack, if you are ready. Dr. Ivey.
I'm ready. It's not letting me share just yet. Here we go. Okay, can everybody see the UR Pre-Med program?
We cannot. I cannot.
Can anybody see it? This one. How about that one?
We see.
No.
Yes. We can see it.
Did it just advance?
It says FAQ.
Excellent. And is my audio okay?
Perfect.
Okay. All right. So I'll try to be quick about this. This is actually part of a much longer kind of stump speech that I give fairly frequently that talks about the profession, the physician's profession, med school itself, and how to get into med school. I'm going to limit myself to only the last part and try to get through as quickly as possible. I'm a huge fan of being stopped by questions, but it's not going to work in this format. So I'm just going to jump right in and start with the questions that I tend to get the most when I give presentations live. And I'm using pre-med in this particular context as kind of a stand-in for pre-health professions, period. I don't want to give you the impression that everything I talked about indicates that med school students or pre-med students are the preeminent version of pre-health profession students on campus. It's just that we have to shorten things somehow, and that's how I shorten things. So when I talk about pre-meds, I'm talking about a very large, maybe 2,000 strong population of students that are interested in pre-health professions of some sort, but are collectively referred to as pre-med. Okay, so let's just jump in. What should I major in is by far the most common question, especially for people in your cohort, and that's a perfectly logical question. The answer is whatever you like and whatever you'll do well in, and whatever major you will find people that are like you in. The incorrect answer is some particular science major that someone told you would stand out in terms of med school admissions committee perception. There is no such major. And the people that tell you things like that are generally trying to recruit you into their degree program, or perhaps went through the med school admissions process 40 years ago and are talking about things that happened a long time in the past. Trust me on this one, there is no correlation between major and acceptance to med school. And there is no such thing as one particular major that stands out. Another reason not to pick majors strategically is that you might change your mind about what you want to do in 3 years, and you should absolutely leave yourself open to change your mind, because that's the path to a successful and happy career. Must I be in honors? Should I be in honors? So you don't have to be in honors to get into med school. And again, I'm talking about getting into health profession schools. Just calling med school as the example. Should you be in honors? Yes, and I'll use med school numbers as the proof of that. So typically we have somewhere around 150 applicants to med school per year. Last year it was ridiculously high, over 200. But of those, typically about 60 to 70% get in. And about 50% of those, 50 to 60% of those are in honors. But among the students that get in, that are in honors, the acceptance rate is much higher. So it's at least going to be 75%. Usually it's over 80% of students in honors getting into med school. And this year, the 2020 class, people that include Savannah, experienced the most competitive year ever in the history of med school. So if you know someone who got into med school this year, you should go give them a fist bump, because they did the hardest thing that has ever been done by pre-med applicants. But in this year's class, almost 90% of the applicants that were in the college honors program were accepted into med school. And that is extraordinary in any year, but in this year, it's just amazing. So if you're contemplating honors and you're thinking, as sometimes people will tell you that, well, it's a commitment that is going to take away from my other pre-medness that I have to do, that is absolutely the wrong way of thinking about it. There are specific, very concrete reasons why honors will help you get into med school. And I'm not going to go into those now. We can talk about that later in individual sessions. But for now, the answer to two is you don't have to, but you should. What is the pre-med program? I'll get into that in a minute, but I can tell you right now that it is not a major, and then we'll elaborate later on. What classes should I take? I'll talk about that specifically, although it's a very difficult thing to answer quickly, because there are, just among the med schools, 200 of them in the United States. And to an extent, they all have different prerequisites. Some have no prerequisites and some have an extremely long list. So it's hard to answer that question quickly, but I will do it. And some of the other people that come after me will talk about other pre-professional programs. And I think they'll mention classes as well. When do most students apply to med school? At the University of Arkansas, most, maybe 2/3 to 3/4, apply at the end of their junior year. And most of the rest apply at the end of their senior year. And every now and then people apply after that. Nowadays, almost no one, really basically no one, applies earlier than their junior year. How many apply? As I think I mentioned, usually it's about 150 or so. This past year, it was over 200 for reasons that no one really understands. How many get in is usually about 60%, maybe 70 to 80 students per year. This year, the good news is over 100 have been accepted so far. We're still on the wait list for a lot of people because it's been such a crazy year. The bad news is that we had over 200 applicants. So our percentages are down as a result of the super competitiveness of the application cycle. Nothing about this past year is going to apply to you, I can almost guarantee. Which med schools? So the huge majority of our applicants, typically it's about 3/4 of our applicants go to the state MD granting school in Arkansas, UAMS. and that is by design. That's going to be true of every state university, especially every state university that has one state public MD granting school. That's the way the system is designed. And UAMS is by law required to accept a certain percentage of their applicants from the state. So that's always going to be true. It doesn't really reflect anything other than the nature of medical school education in the United States. But among the 1/4 to maybe a third this year, many more out-of-state applicants got in percentage-wise, for reasons that I won't get into. They go all over. So I counted since 2017, over 50 different med schools that students from the U of A have gone to. This year it's around 35 so far, and it's schools from all over. So we've already heard one student that got into WashU. That's one of the, since it's really close, that's not an uncommon place for U of A applicants to go if they're really smart. Vanderbilt, Baylor, UT Southwestern are fairly high up in the list. Duke and Johns Hopkins, as it turned out, and Yale, we've done pretty well lately. This year we have 3 people that got into California schools, which is unusual. Anyway, all over is the short answer to that. Okay, so the pre-med program is not a major, but what is it? And that's something that sort of depends on who you are. So as a pre-med advisor, I think of it as about 1,000 students or so, and my colleagues who help advise those students and help them get into med school. As far as you're concerned, it is those students, and also the collection of sort of community knowledge, common knowledge, in terms of how to approach the process of getting into med school. And that process is not a very prescribed, regimented program that you have to apply for and get admitted into and pay for. It's nothing like that. You get into the pre-med program by saying you're pre-med, basically. But once you say that, then you are on our lists that allow us to provide you with the information that you need to determine where you should be at a particular time in your undergraduate career, and what you should be doing in terms of acquiring a collection of competencies that are expected by med schools. So how you get those competencies is up to you, and that's the way it should be. The idea that someone has to tell you what to do exactly and help you do it and force you into an internship or something like that, that is not in your best interest, and that's not the way we do pre-professional advising around here. Okay, so I'm going to go very quickly through everything else, but you don't have to pay attention to it anyway, because pretty much everything is online somewhere. Much of it is on the website that I chatted you a link to, this one. So this is what it looks like, and I suspect at this stage of your career, this is the tab that you'll be interested in. Maybe in 3 years or 4, you'll be living here for quite a while, the applying to med school stuff. I'm not going to be talking about that, but the preparation part is covered by, it contains what I'm going to be talking about. So you can always find it there. Okay, so what is not obvious, although it is on that website, but maybe is not obvious to you, is that part of your quest should be, is med school the appropriate fit for me? Should I be a physician? Will I be happy at it? And among the things that are important for that decision is, what kind of people will I be working with? Who will be my colleagues for the next 50 years? And the best way to find that out right now is to hang out with other people that think they want to do the same job as you do. And as far as pre-med is concerned, the best way to do that is to be a part of the registered student organization, the RSO, called AED. So this is one of the largest, if not the largest, student organization on campus. It is, strictly speaking, a pre-professional organization, but it's almost entirely pre-med oriented. And it's also a National Honor Society, which makes it a little bit weird in terms of joining it. But the bottom line is you don't have to join to attend events and be a part of it. And the events that you should be a part of happen almost the first day you arrive on campus. So be aware of the fact that it exists and get on the listserv so that you get announcements from it. That's one of the key strategic moves that you should make early in your pre-med career. And while I'm on that topic, there's very little that we request of you as first year students. Get used to campus, do well in your classes, don't freak out about making A's and everything, but do well. And don't stress too much about the fact that you are pre-med, because the fact of the matter is, as long as you're taking classes and doing okay and volunteering maybe a little bit, not necessarily clinical volunteering, but just doing stuff, then you're not behind. That's really all that we expect of you. And otherwise, we'd like to just kind of leave you alone and let you adjust. There are other student organizations that are pre-med in nature, but they're much smaller, much more specialized. So I'm not going to go into those, but I do just want you to be aware of the fact that they exist. There are other pre-health organizations as well that I'm not going to talk about, but you can find pretty quickly. Okay, the other key take-home lesson in terms of things to know that you don't really need to know right now, but you will need to know eventually, is that there is something called a pre-med advisory committee on campus and the consequence of that. So first of all, what is a pre-med advisory committee? They are relatively common in United States universities, not ubiquitous. So it is not something that you would necessarily expect to have as part of a pre-med program. But we have one, and we have a great one. It's a fairly large one that includes a practicing physician, several MDs, professors, professional advisors, deans, and their role, as far as you're concerned, is advisory, meaning they advise you on the steps that you should be taking as a pre-med. And we advise med schools in terms of who they should be accepting. So the advisory is twofold as far as the committee members are concerned, but as far as you're concerned, think of it as a resource that could help you establish that you're on the right track and assist you in the sometimes fairly tedious process of actually applying to med school. Never mind that for now, but do realize that because there's a pre-med advisory committee, the University of Arkansas generates a committee letter. And that committee letter is required by UAMS, the state MD granting school, and is often recommended by other med schools. So be aware of the fact that there is such a letter generated by your university, and eventually be aware of the consequences of that. It's not going to be important for a while, but in 3 years it will be. Okay, just really quickly, I mentioned that there's a MD granting in one state school in Arkansas, UAMS. We have two DO granting med schools. I think eventually 2024 is projected that there will be another MD granting school in Arkansas. And after this year, I think that's a wonderful thing, because we absolutely positively maxed out UAMS. They took as many applicants from us as they possibly could, and we could have filled their class with very good applicants, which is kind of depressing in a way. But by the time you apply, there may be more options as far as state schools are concerned. Okay, these are numbers from the past, from 2019. 2020 numbers are not quite ready for publication yet, but these numbers are probably going to be more representative of 2021 anyway, because 2020 was so crazy. But this is kind of the breakdown of majors that we typically see. The bottom line is that there are successful majors from every degree program in the College of Arts and Sciences and many of the other colleges on campus as well. Just quickly, what classes do med schools typically have as prerequisites? That is, you have to have these at some time before you matriculate, before your first day of class in med school. And again, that varies quite a bit, but UAMS, which is what this list is taken from, has a fairly typical one. And you'll notice, if you haven't already, the commonality between these sorts of lists of prerequisites and those of other health professions. And that's a very good thing for you. It means that you can continue for 3 years being a pre-med, orthodox pre-med, and then switch to some other pre-health profession very easily without having to worry about being behind on your classwork. The only other thing to caution is this is one of many different lists, and those lists are published. Fortunately, you can find that information, but you do have to dig to get to that information for specific med schools because they're going to be a little bit different. Okay, and the rest of the business about med school competencies is something that we have a conversation on for the next 4 years. So academic excellence is one of the competencies, not the only one, but it is certainly an important one. And that's going to include GPA, which I encourage you not to focus on at this stage in your career. Do well, learn, but if the difference is, between stress and an A and relatively stress-free and a B, go for the B because you'll be just fine. The other academic cornerstone is the MCAT, which promise me you won't worry about yet. When the time comes, we will help you with it. But for now, just realize that there is such a thing. And the importance of it is not just in getting into med school, but also as an indication that a physician's life is the life for you, because they take a lot of standardized tests in med school and outside of it. So this is an indication, one of the indications that, yeah, I've made the right career choice or not. Okay, there are other class suggestions that are not necessarily tied to prerequisites, that are mostly designed to let you do well in the MCAT. And these lists are online, so I'm not going to go through them, but this is just an example. And then finally, everything about applying to med school, and really all professional schools, that information is out there. It's a very transparent process, for sure, for med school. And among the places that it is on a website for this so-called AAMC, American Association of Medical Colleges. They have a beautiful timeline that looks kind of cheesy, but it is in fact quite detailed. And if you study it, you'll really have a complete picture of where a typical pre-med is at a particular stage in their undergraduate career, and what are the sort of things that you should be thinking about, anticipating in the future. So I encourage you to check out that and similar websites for that sort of information. And then just to sort of put in a very quick nutshell, the idea of competencies. So there's academic competencies that you provide evidence for in the form of GPA and MCAT scores. The appropriateness of the career is based on experiences that are clinical in nature that you do as an undergraduate. And you will want to volunteer because at some point you're going to be forced to say that I want to help people in your application process. So this is how you prove that instead of just saying it. There are other sort of optional, I guess I would say, competencies like leadership and research experience that we talk about as we continue the conversation with you throughout your undergraduate career. So I went through this fast, and I encourage you not to pay attention to a whole lot of it just yet. But the bottom line is that the collection of academic and pre-med advisors, the pre-med advisory committee, and your peers, students and student organizations, are here to help. And part of the help is the most important thing, which is proof that this is the right decision in terms of a very expensive education and a long career that you want to be happy. So the website is the Clearinghouse for Information. My email address is, feel free to use it as often as you want if you have specific questions, and we will talk later on individually. That's it.
Okay, thanks a lot, Mack. Really appreciate it. I think we're echoing some things over the course of the session. So we're going to move on to Dr. Kathleen Paul.
Hi there.
Mack. Okay.
Let's see, I'm going to try to share my screen here. Oh, can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay, great. Let's see. So hopefully you all can see this. There's going to be a lot of overlap here. And so I'm just going to quickly speak for about 5 minutes about the Predental Studies program. Let's see, how do I advance the slides on this view? I have to move this little bar there. Sorry, I still struggle with Zoom. There we go. Now, these are the reasons why students will tell me that they are interested in dentistry, and they're all valid. It is a healthcare field, right? Oral health is connected very intimately to overall health. And so as a clinician in the dental field, you have the opportunity to improve the quality of people's lives. And what's really interesting is that most students will tell me that they've had some sort of experience with a dental clinician or a specialist over the course of their life that has given them confidence and really improved their social and emotional well-being, as well as their physical well-being. Dentists tend to have fairly flexible lifestyles. A lot of them will own their own business and manage their own business. And a lot of students will say that it's a career path where you can blend science, art, business, and patient care. And that's true. And there's lots of specializations within dentistry and dental related fields where maybe there's emphasis on one more than the other. For example, a lab technician or prosthodontist might be really focusing on the art portion of it, right? And of course, there is pretty excellent compensation if you end up successful in the dental field. And so if you find yourself interested in pursuing dentistry, I would recommend that you don't hesitate, come into me for advising, meet with me. I will be holding office hours on campus again next semester, hopefully. I'm gonna knock on wood. But I've been meeting with students most often through Zoom the past year. So you can schedule an appointment with me through UA Success. There's a Starfish scheduling application, kind of like the name of that. You would just Google my name as an advisor and you'll see open hours each week. Usually those start up again in August, and over summer, I just do advising appointments by request. So if you would like to meet with me before the fall, feel free to email me. My email is at the end of this presentation and we can set up an appointment to chat. There is a Predental email listserv. So if you think you're not ready to start with advising, but you still want to make sure you're getting all the information that I provide to Predental students, still email me. I'll add you to the Predental email listserv, and you'll be getting all of the updates that I send to declared Predental students. And then you can also find information, just like for pre-med, on the Fulbright Predental Studies website. There's a dedicated website that has almost all of the information that I'm going to be talking about today. And I'll provide a link to that in the chat after I present here. One of the most valuable resources for students who are interested in going into dentistry is the Predental Society. And this is also a registered student organization, or an RSO, on campus that's completely student run. So I am the sponsor for this group. I come to the meetings, but all of the organization, all the planning, the credit for that goes to the students. They run a GroupMe and an Instagram where they give updates about different events. They have a mentorship program for people coming into the program and for people who are further along in the pre-dental studies program. And they have monthly meetings and workshops. So they'll have workshops on how to have a dental school interview, how to prepare your application, how to prepare for the DAT. And they'll also bring in admissions personnel from surrounding state dental schools to talk about the admissions process. And so while I'm on that topic, you may have heard that there is no dental school in Arkansas, and that is true. And that might scare you a little bit after hearing how many of our students actually go to the Arkansas Medical School who are interested in pre-med. You might be thinking, where do we go if we're Arkansas residents? But the legislature in Arkansas has actually figured out a way for students to be accepted to surrounding state schools, and that is through something called the Arkansas Health Education Grant Program. They've negotiated that a certain number of spots be held at surrounding state dental schools specifically for Arkansas residents. And so in this way, I always tell Arkansas students, this is, I think, to your advantage. You're going to be able to go experience a new place, people from a new area, experience different perspectives. And I think it's one of the cool parts of coming from Arkansas and becoming a dentist, is you get this opportunity to gain new perspectives in a completely new place. And so what I've listed here are the state schools in the surrounding area that actually do accept Arkansas residents. And ARHEG indicates the Arkansas Health Education Grant slots that are there. And so students who are accepted under the ARHEG slots will have severely reduced tuition rates, almost in-state levels. And then you can see at U of Tennessee Memphis, where far and away the most number of students end up, there's also 10 additional spots that are saved for Arkansas residents, but they would just be paying out-of-state tuition. And then on the last tab here, I've listed schools that are no longer part of the ARHEG program, but are still really interested in Arkansas residents. Other ways that people sometimes look at reducing costs for tuition for dental school is through the US Navy, Army, and Air Force scholarships. And so if you find yourself interested in that, I also have information about that we could talk through during advising. So I'm just going to go through this really quickly. What I've listed on this slide are the most common, I call them sort of the common denominator courses. These are the most common courses that are required for those schools I listed on the last page. And a lot of them have overlap, as Dr. Ivey said, with pre-med program requirements and really all pre-health program requirements. Generally, we tell students you want to target a 3.0 or above, but the average for most of those schools I showed was a 3.6 science GPA or above. So you do want to focus on doing well, but again, you do not need to pick a specific major. In some cases, people, I think, would say biology is an advantage as a major just because there's so much overlap in the requirements. But we have students who go to dental school who were music majors, students who were anthropology majors, students who were statistics, who studied statistics. So really you can major in anything. You just want to make sure you're doing well and excelling in your courses. So the equivalent to the MCAT for dental students is called the Dental Admissions Test, the DAT. It has a number of different subsections. And most schools are going to want to see students targeting a 20+ academic average. That probably doesn't mean much to you right now if you haven't started looking into this, but just know that this is probably thing that causes students most anxiety in preparing for dental school. And there are programs that can help you prepare for this. And it's something that comes up quite a bit in the Predental Society. So we can talk about that in advising. And again, clinical shadowing hours and volunteer hours are something to start early on, not only because dental schools expect to see it on your application, but just like Dr. Ivey was saying, it's important to know that this is the right fit for you. And so getting into offices early can sometimes be very eye-opening and might lead you to one of the other pre-health professions if you're not happy in a dental office. And there is a committee letter for our program that is written for dental school applicants. It is not quite the same as the pre-med process or the pre-med committee. It's sort of an ad hoc committee that's generated for each student, and then I summarize the results of the evaluation from those committees. And so but if you do have questions or want to set up advising with me this summer, feel free to email me, even if you just have general questions.
Thank you, Dr. Paul. I appreciate it. So we're coming up on our hour. I hope the other folks who are here to present have some spare time so that they can share their important ideas. We're shifting now to representatives from our College of Education Health Professions. Ms. Deb Henderson is a pre-nursing advisor who is here to talk with you all about good classes to take, honors classes to take as you're preparing for admission or applying to admissions for the Eleanor Mann School of Nursing. And this part of our program is slightly different because this professional school is on our campus. And so we actually have the director of the school and also the director of the honors program in the School of Nursing who will be with us as well. And they're, we'll shift from pre-nursing preparation to what's it like as an honor student once you're enrolled, once you've been admitted. So Deb, I think our presenters now are just going to ask you all to listen really carefully, use your ears. I don't think they have visuals. So we'll kick off with Deb Henderson. Thanks for being here.
All right, thank you, everyone. I'm glad that you're coming to school at the University of Arkansas. I deal with pre-nursing students. Matthew Fay takes care of y'all that are in the honors program, but then I'll interact with you on several different levels, and then also with the non-honors. People ask me, what should I take? What should I take? And there are all the usual subjects for honors courses, like the honors psychology or honors anthropology. Those courses are great preparation because they are human science courses. They are going to help you to be more familiar with what goes on in human bodies and minds. In general, those kinds of classes will have more professors teaching them, and you might have less busy work than you might have in other classes that are meant for the masses. So I would encourage you to take classes that meet the needs that you're headed for, taking care of people. What are some things that are going to help you in understanding people? There are a couple of classes that I would recommend that don't often come up. One of those is an English class. Take an honors composition or advanced composition class. If you've come into college being exempt from English because you're a great test taker, well, you're going to be doing a lot of writing. And being able to write well is a key skill for anything that you're doing, right? Many of you will be going on to graduate school and being advanced practice nurses. One of the first classes you take is scholarly writing. So please do the nursing staff and the professors a favor, be able to put down a good sentence. Another class that's really key is a public speaking class, honors public speaking. In nursing school, you will get up and do mini presentations. You will do role playing. You'll do all kinds of things, and being comfortable in those roles, I think, is terribly important. It's going to make your life easier. It's going to make you a better candidate for nursing school, and it's going to make you a better nurse, right? Those are the primary ones that I can think of, things related to the health sciences, English, public speaking, nutrition. There are always good honors sections out there. Yes, they're a little bit more work, but hey, they're worth it. That's all.
Okay, so next we have Dr. Susan Patton. She's the director of the School of Nursing, and she's going to talk about a special, I think a couple of sections of university perspectives that are geared toward pre-nursing students in the school or in the College of Education and Health Professions.
So I apologize for the background noise. I was able to keep my husband quiet for a little while, but he's now watching baseball. So we do have university perspectives classes that are specific to nursing honor students, and both Matthew and I have taught these classes, and we have another faculty member that is going to join us in the fall. And then Ms. Henderson also teaches university perspective classes that are specific to nursing. So the advantage of this is we do get to talk a little bit about the nursing profession. In my class, we actually read a book that's written by a nurse. We see some videos and movies that are related to nursing, and try to introduce students a little earlier to the profession and professional formation. So I do want to reassure you that there are going to be many, many opportunities for you to engage with us and find out more information about nursing in the honors program. Ms. Henderson and Matthew both are just wells of information about what classes you should take and what's going to be expected of you. Dr. Ivey pointed out the competencies, and I think that's pretty also for nursing. There are a lot of applicants to the nursing program. It's rather competitive. So the competencies we are looking for are, of course, academic success. So taking the science courses and making an A or a B. Also, we are looking for things that, like he mentioned, volunteering, just some demonstration that you know what the nursing profession is like, and you still want to be in it, and you are very interested in helping people. So that goes a long way as well. As well as some demonstration of resilience and being able to handle stressful situations, because nursing is a hard profession. You're on your feet all day making hard decisions about life and death, and it takes somebody who has some resilience and some ability to handle multitasking and stress. So those are kinds of things that we look for when we interview. And again, I think our emails are going to be shared, and please feel free to contact any of the three of us if you have any questions, or we could talk to you more. We do have a Student Nurses Association as well, and that is a good way to get in with a group of people that you're going to be working with, as Dr. Ivey said, and learn a little bit about them. And they have a lot of activities. Last year, they started doing some activities with the pre-nursing students, bringing them over to the nursing school and doing some tours, giving some advice on how to apply for nursing. And that was very helpful. So I am sure that we will continue that. So I'm just going to turn it over to Dr. Ballantyne, who can talk a little bit more about the honors program itself.
Hello and good evening. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about kind of what to expect once you begin the honors program and begin nursing school. So a couple of things to think about as far as schedules go. When you get into nursing school and start your actual nursing curriculum, you're going to have a relatively regimented schedule, meaning that there's not a lot of, I guess, individualism in the scheduling that occurs, because we have you taking certain clinical courses and certain didactic courses at the same time in order to continue to build on certain topics. With that being said, there are many of the honors courses that you're going to take just at the same time that the other students are taking the same course. You will just be enrolled in the honor section of that course, which requires, an extra project, maybe an extra reading, writing activity, something like that. The only exception to that is that you will take an evidence-based practice course in your first full semester of nursing school that will help to prepare you for your honors project and to write your thesis, which will occur in transition between your junior and senior year. Most of the time because you're not accepted or really starting the full-blown nursing school until your junior year for most students, then the honors project occurs in that junior and senior year, kind of across both of the years and the semesters. I think one other thing that's important to note for nursing in particular is that when we see applications, or a lot of our students do end up applying to graduate school, having that honors thesis experience does prove really valuable because it means that you've written some sort of a literature review before, and that just kind of proves that you are capable of research on some level and that you are prepared to undertake some level of research, which is required pretty much for any graduate school that you're going to be enrolled in. That means that you can practice, as Ms. Henderson said, as an advanced practice nurse or a nurse researcher, a nurse educator. So there's different roles that you can look into through graduate school, but all of them will be enhanced, and I think you'll see that through the application process to graduate school, which is also very competitive. That if you've undertaken some sort of a research thesis or undergraduate thesis, it really does prove beneficial, not only on your application, but also once you get into graduate school and are actually doing the work of creating research on your own.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thanks to all of our presenters. I had a direct message from a student. Yes, I'll respond to that question. The student says that they are occupational therapy, so they're looking for some of those prerequisite courses, and that's, I was thinking, I wanted to remind you all, we're just showing you 3 options to a career in health, and there are many more, and so I'll send you that link here in just a minute. I just have a couple of reminders. In my frame of mind, this session was certainly designed to help those of you that are attending summer orientation to kind of prepare for that, and seeing the classes and knowing that flexibility is key, and how do you stay open to all of the possibilities. That, we hope that that's a good takeaway from the session tonight. I just want to remind you to really take stock of your advanced placement credits that you're coming in with, exams that you took in your junior year, but we know you have some that you will not receive scores for until later in the summer. And so advisors that you'll be meeting with during orientation are ready to have those conversations with you. We want you to go in armed with the details. What do you think you made? They'll work with you in terms of placing you into the appropriate class based on what you're saying, and then know that you can change your schedule after you've actually built that very first schedule when you attend summer orientation. The same is true for any concurrent enrollment that you may have taken while in high school. And then I do want to encourage you all to bring up the option of the World Language Placement Exam that our World Culture, World Literature, Language and Cultures department offers. There are a few different language exam that you can take that could help you place into a higher level within your chosen language if you don't happen to have AP credit for it. And it's a way to, open up room in your schedule for another minor or trying out some of these different health professions courses that allow you to explore. And so, of course, we're going to allow you all to send any questions that you have in the chat. I've also, some of this is a repeat, but you've got email addresses. We held Dr. Ballantyne's email back since Matthew Fay is your gateway advisor right now in terms of honors in the College of Education and Health Professions. And then, of course, Ms. Henderson is someone that you will likely encounter. She reminded us before the session that they have very good sessions each semester that help pre-nursing students learn even more about how to prepare. So I thank you all for joining us and invite you, if you have any questions, right this very minute to put them in the chat. Otherwise, we look forward to working with all of you. So is there, I can't see the chat. Okay, it looks like we don't have any
Hey,
questions.
Monica,
Yeah.
we do have a question from Todd. Any recommendations for freshman, sophomore honors classes to take for pre-nursing?
Yeah.
This is Dr. Patton here. I think the best person to give you that advice is going to be Matthew. And Matthew you'll be having some sessions this summer before school starts, and then you'll be having meetings individually, and he'll really give you individual attention and give you some good answers there.
And there's also a curriculum plan, a pre-nursing 8th semester degree plan that is marked up for honors students. It's on the website, and it will show you which categories of courses have honors sections.
Okay. And then we have a question for Mack. Mack, do you recommend double majoring and if you're on the pre-med track heading toward med school?
It's very common and becoming much more common, and especially for coming in with a lot of credits, you have the flexibility, you have the option of exploring. So yes, if you have that opportunity, by all means, and we can talk specifically about what some of the common combinations are. I won't do that right now, but yes, it's very frequently encountered and a great way of getting a lot of exposure to concepts that you might not get otherwise.
Hey, Monica, I'm not seeing any more questions.
Okay. All right. So I think we'll call it an end to this really great session. And I thank all of the presenters for joining us this evening, and for all the students out there. We look forward to working with you. Take care.